The 17th Amendment was passed by Congress on May 13, 1912. It was as a result of a corrupt state legislature during the beginning of World War I. Now, at the time that it was passed, no one had any idea of the multiple consequences that would result from the passing of this amendment. Many bills have been passed, actually, that have been contrary to what the people and what the states wanted, but were still passed anyways because of state senators, even though it only came from one state legislature that was corrupt. The corruption grew astronomically after the pass of this bill. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator will have 1 vote. This is a segment of the 17th Amendment, and it is where we get most of our problems. The Making of America goes into a lot of detail about the setting up of the American Constitution and of the balance of powers within its government. Now, it was originally set up to have 2 houses as a part of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives would represent the people of America, while the Senate would represent the states. The senators were originally elected by state legislatures to represent them as their own group, separate from the people, because technically they are. They have to have their own representation on the federal level. Now, however, the senators are elected by popular vote of the people, and I'm going to talk about why that's such a huge problem. When it was originally adopted, it was because of a corrupt state legislature, but no one had any idea how many problems would result by that. Formerly, a state could call back their senator when they voted contrary to what they had wanted. The 5,000-year leap talks a lot about that balance of powers and how fragile it is, and how we had to protect it when we didn't. We are warned in both the Federalist Papers number 45 and 47 of the balance of powers and how fragile they are. James Madison talks multiple times of how important it is that we maintain those balance of powers, not only in our 3 government branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial, but also within the legislative branch itself between the Senate and the House of Representatives. We lost that with the 17th Amendment. We misplaced that balance of powers because we gave too much to our senators. They're in there for a 6-year term, and we have no way to control how they vote after we vote them into office. We put a lot of faith in them when we vote them in, but only sometimes are they really who we think they are when we put in our votes. A good example of this was Obamacare when it was passed in 2010. Obamacare was passed as a result of not just one corrupt senator, but multiple corrupt senators. Now remember, this was adopted because of one corrupt state legislature. But here we are with multiple corrupt senators, which is so many more times worse than just one legislature with one state, because now we have 50. An analysis by Forbes magazine says the Senate was evenly divided at the time, which means there were 49 seats to the Republicans and 49 seats to the Democrats, with 2 independents. The independents created a little bit of sway, but ultimately there wasn't going to be anything passed without the agreement of the whole. Now, when we had bills that were completely Republican bills, they were never passed because you had the control of the Democrats on their side. But if there was something very Democratic, then we had the control of the Republicans that would keep it from being passed. It would only be middle ground that was passed at the time. Obamacare, however, despite being a completely Democratic bill, was still passed. Multiple Republicans switched sides to be Democrats to vote it in. Now, if the 17th Amendment was not in place, then state legislatures would have been able to call them back as a result of this. They actually could veto their votes at the time, and call them back home to replace them with new people who would vote in concordance of the states and consequently the people. But we don't have that anymore, and Obamacare was passed when nobody wanted it, and the resulting senators were still in term for the duration. In conclusion, the 17th Amendment has brought the states nothing but troubles. I say we repeal the 17th Amendment with a new one, just like we repealed the 18th Amendment with the 21st. Now this would be a huge process, and it would take a lot of people to do it. There would have to be a convention of the states, first off, and then everybody would have to be in agreement to then send it to the federal level to be passed. It's a long road ahead of us, honestly, but I think it's something that we can do. The American people were warned numerous times, and it's about time we listen. To fix this problem, we must repeal the 17th Amendment and restore power to the states.
That was a really good